up guys, my name is Javier and welcome back to Tool Craze. I've been getting by with using a circular saw, sawhorses, and work tables, but like many jobs, what I really needed was a table saw, especially when ripping sheet goods and ripping lumber. And now that I've gotten back into woodworking, the ability to make long straight cuts is a must, and I just couldn't justify not having a table saw. So to save some money, I got me a Craftsman $200 table saw with a wheel stand a while back, and it left a lot to be desired. So I took that model back to the store, and instead I got me this Dewalt DWE7491RS table saw. The reason I went with this table saw was for a few reasons. I needed something I could work here at home, either in my garage or my front yard or backyard, and also something I could take with me if I needed to work at a different location. I can't take a cabinet saw with me, and the table saw has to be portable. So what I really needed was a job site table saw. And this model fits the bill because it's portable, it's a job site table saw, and I also like that it comes with the rolling wheel stand. When it's in the stored position, you can easily wheel it around, and it's easy and quick to set up with its swing out legs. It only takes a few seconds to swing out all of its four legs, and once they're set into place, just tip it over so it's upright. Once you're done using the saw, it stores up neatly, standing up on its side, and I also like that it doesn't take up too much space when it's stored. It's also very sturdy. The Craftsman model that I had was a bit wobbly if you push it around, but this stand doesn't budge if you push forward on the saw. It does budge side to side, but that doesn't really matter, as what matters is how sturdy it is when pushing forward on the saw. The built-in stand is great, but there's one thing that bothers me, which is that the saw is attached to the stand with nuts and bolts. That means that I can't take them apart easily, like their other similar rolling stand. Being able to take the saw apart from the stand means I can fit both in my car. But I doubt this will be an issue for anyone else if you have a truck or a van. You can still take them apart, but you're going to have to go through the tedious work of removing screws. The next thing that sold me on this Dewalt table saw is Dewalt's unique fence system. One is a rack and pinion system that enables the fence to extend and to retract, all using a knob that's located under the table. Turning this knob moves the fence rails to the right or to the left. Then lock it in place by pushing down on this lever. This ensures that once the fence is installed and squared, you never have to worry about your fence needing adjustments. Once it's squared, it's always square, whether you move it to the left or to the right. And you have three positions to install the fence on the rails. This peg right here will allow you to install the fence so you can have between 0 to a 24-inch cutting capacity to the right side of the blade. And the next set of pegs behind that, all the way to the right side, will allow you to have between an 8-inch capacity all the way up to the max 32.5-inch capacity to the right side of the blade. Another neat feature included with this saw is that it gives you two rulers instead of one, so you can determine the cut lengths when using either of these two pegs. The top ruler is for the middle peg for a 0 to 24.5-inch capacity to the right side of the blade, and the bottom ruler is for the peg on the far right, and it gives you between 8 to the max 32.5 inches to the right side of the blade. And the last set of pegs on the left side allows you to install the fence to the left side of the saw, but you're limited to 22 inches to the left side of the blade. The downside of placing the fence on the left side of the blade is that Dewalt didn't include a third ruler for measuring the distance between the blade and the fence to the left side. The second thing unique to Dewalt table saws is the actual fence itself. The fence has a built-in swing-out arm that folds back, and you can use the fence just as you would with any other fence. But when you swing it out forward, it extends the fence at the bottom towards the blade, and it leaves you plenty of breathing room up here, making it easier to make thin cuts. This way you have a bit of breathing room when making very thin cuts. This swing out fence also comes in handy when you extend the fence beyond the table, and you can now move it a bit further down, and now can support your workpiece at an even level with the table. This way longboards don't sag below the table when making cuts. This particular model also offers the largest rip capacity that I saw for a job site table saw when I was doing my research and shopping around. Most of the job site table saws come with a 24-inch rip capacity, but on this model, you get a whopping 32.5 inches to the right side of the blade. This allows you to cut sheet goods at much larger widths and also while being supported by the whip-out fence. I also noticed that out of the Dewalt table saws, this model has the largest rip capacity. The DWE7491RS comes with a 20-inch rip capacity. The DWE7491RS comes with a 24-inch rip capacity. And the very similar model to this one, the DWE7490X, comes with a 28.5-inch rip capacity. So if you're looking for a Dewalt table saw with the largest rip capacity, then this is it. Another thing I like about Dewalt table saws is that they all come with roll cage frames. Typically on job site and portable table saws, you'll find a table saw with a big molded plastic frame. The metal tubing roll cage form is obviously going to be more durable than a plastic frame because it's made from metal tubing. The yellow front you do see is made from plastic, but it's just the wall plate to support the bevel gauge. I also have the DWE745 table saw, and I noticed that they changed the power switch on this table saw. The DWE745 and the newer model, the DWE7490, have the same power switch, and you pull on the switch to power on the table saw, and you push it back in to turn it off. On this model, and also the very similar DWE7490, instead of pulling on the switch, you press the green power button to turn on, and to turn off you press the red large tab. And for added safety, they include a black tab that flips down, and it covers the green power button so it can't be pressed. This way if your kids come near the saw, it'll be harder for them to figure out how to power it on. So it's a safety feature. And you can also lock the black tab in place with a padlock so nobody can reach the green power button except for you. As for the accessories, you get all the standard accessories included. The riving knife, anti-kickback pawls, the blade guard, miter gauge, a push stick, the blade wrenches, and a framing blade are all included. All the accessories have built-in storage, with the exception of storage for extra blades. This one's a negative for me because I would rather keep extra blades on board rather than go to my storage for extra blades, especially if I take this table saw with me to another location. Most of the job site table saws have onboard storage for extra blades, so Dewalt loses a point here. Of course, all saws make a ton of sawdust, so if you want to cut down on sawdust flying around everywhere in your shop, they included a standard 2.5-inch dust port on the back of the saw, so you can hook up this bad boy up to your shop vac. And for even more dust removal, they added a cool 1.25-inch dust port right here on top of the blade guard. So the saw itself has all the power you'd come to expect from a 15-amp motor, and what we've all come to expect from a Dewalt table saw. Don't laugh, but I added another shelf to my storage room. So one of my first projects with the saw was ripping sheets of OSB. This is a job that can easily be done with a circular saw, so of course was no sweat for this table saw. But I did have the added advantage that the saw can make very straight long cuts without having to worry about staying on the cut line because of the integrated fence system that ensures that all cuts come out straight. And ripping 2x4 lumber was also not an issue for this saw, as you would expect. So those two examples were with soft woods. Now let's step it up with some hardwood. And in this project I decided to cut 4 sections of red oak so I can sandwich them all together to make a much larger block. Cutting them individually was easy work for the saw. The real test is when they're all sandwiched together. Now we're going to cut a 3-inch thick hardwood block, and as you can see, even when the saw's cutting capacity is nearly maxed out with solid hardwood, this saw was able to push through very easily. I mean, the saw didn't slow down, it didn't bog down, and it felt like it had power to spare. What I also like besides the performance is that out of the box the built-in ruler was spot on. When I rip cut that small piece of 2x4 earlier, I set the fence at exactly 2 5/8 inches, and that's exactly what I got from the cut. After using this saw in several cuts, I noticed that it did need a few adjustments to make the saw perform better. I noticed that the riving knife needed to be adjusted because it was slightly beyond the right side of the blade, and as you would push the workpiece through the cut, the riving knife would stick out and be pushed to the left side, while also misaligning the blade slightly as it moved over. This was an easy fix, as all I had to do was adjust a few screws so the riving knife would no longer touch the workpiece. Although out of the box the fence was aligned pretty good, it wasn't perfectly square with the miter guide rails. If I only planned on using this saw for rough construction, this wouldn't be a problem. But since I'll also be using this saw for woodworking, I needed precision. So to square up the fence perfectly with the miter guide rails, all I had to do was slightly move the screw on the back rail that holds the fence in place a little to the side. I also tried resawing a 3.5-inch block of wood by making half the cut on one side, then flipping it over to finish the cut. Unfortunately, I didn't film that event, but I do have the leftover piece from that cut. And here we can see that out of the box, the saw is a little bit misaligned at 90 degrees as both cuts don't line up exactly and one is lower than the other. This was an easy fix and all I had to do was adjust the bevel scale stops and the red pointer arrow. So out of the box, this saw was adjusted close to being perfect. If you plan on buying this saw for rough construction work, you don't need to make a single adjustment, except for possibly the riving knife if you experience the same issue on your saw. The built-in rulers were spot on my saw, and if you need exact precision, you might want to check and adjust your fence and also the bevel gauge scale. So other than a few minor adjustments, I'm more than satisfied with this Dewalt table saw. It has more than enough power for my needs, even when cutting 3-inch thick hardwood. And I also really appreciate its large 32.5-inch rip capacity and its unique fence and rack and pinion system, which come in real handy. So if you're looking for a solid job site table saw with a rolling stand, this saw will not disappoint. Alright guys, thanks for stopping by and checking out this review. Let me know what you guys think of this saw in the comment section below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and follow me on social media over at Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and over at the web at toolcraze.net for more tool reviews and tool news. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.